Three, two, one. We are recording. Hello and welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano here for yet another great podcast interview. I've been doing this for over 5 years, everybody. This is my favorite thing that I do. And why is it my favorite thing to do? I get to meet incredible people that are just knocking it out of the park. And not only are they doing well, thank God they're willing to share their journey, their stories, their struggles to help you get and be your best. Today, I have on a show a really successful guest, a really successful business person, author of a new book this past year. His name is Eric Mitchell. Eric, welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
Excited to be here, David. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to shout out a good friend of mine, Heath Barnes, who I was introduced by the great Jack Daly, who a lot of people know. And I coached Heath to start his podcast, which is really turning out great. And then I started listening to his podcast, and you, Eric, were a guest. And I was like, Heath, that was a great guest. That was a great interview. I want to have Eric Mitchell on my podcast. So here we are. Thank you so much, Eric, for sharing some heartbeats with me today. I very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Heath is an amazing person. When you get to know his backstory, it's so inspirational to be around him. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be here, David.
Excellent. So, Eric, you are very much into helping, giving of yourself, and providing value to others so that they can be their best. But first, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your book, but tell us a little bit who you are. How did you get started in your journey, and where are you today?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Canada, moved to the United States in 1999. And part of my journey was I applied to a bank to get an SBA loan to start a business. Didn't understand the American banking system, and that experience didn't go well as a result. And so I started investigating the American banking system, not because it wasn't a good intent. It was funny, as a Canadian, I'm thinking, you know what? The bank just did something really bad to me. I'm going to sue them, because that's what Americans do, right? You sue people.
We sue everybody.
You sue everybody, right? And so I'm an American now, so I'm going to sue them, right? So that was why. So I'm doing research about how to sue them. I quickly discovered in the United States that banks are privately owned and they can change their mind and they follow within these parameters. It doesn't work that way in Canada, right? So I couldn't get my arms around, what do you mean you can just own a bank? You can just own a bank? It's like, yeah, you can own a bank. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And so investigating how the American banking system worked, what I learned was that there was an amazing opportunity to create value for consumers. And so I jumped in 1999. Started a company called The Loan Brokerage. I was doing all types of financing, unsecured lines of credit, business loans, SBA loans, factoring, equipment leasing, asset-based lending, residential mortgages, commercial mortgages. I was doing everything. You needed money, I had sources for you. And then in 2000, the residential mortgage world just exploded, and my phone just wouldn't stop ringing for residential mortgages, and I ended up focusing on that. And here we are, 22 years later in the mortgage industry. I'm now executive vice president for a mortgage bank. We're doing $3 billion a year in mortgages, 500 employees, and it's been a great run.
Yeah. So I don't know much about the mortgage industry, the mortgage business, but since I've met Heath, I've explored a little bit. And it's a great industry. There's a lot of money to be made, especially if you are focused on being a hard worker, a great salesperson, and just, bringing yourself to the highest potential that you can be. You can make a ton of money, correct?
You can. I would say that you can make a ton of money selling anything.
That's true.
Right? You can selling mortgages, selling insurance, selling real estate, selling cars, selling photocopiers, right? I don't care what you sell. The question then becomes, do you want to become excellent at it? And if you do, then you'll make a lot of money. If you are focused on being mediocre at it, then it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most salespeople, subconsciously are mediocre.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to focus on being excellent because they don't understand what the drivers are. And that's really become my passion, is helping people understand what drives you to want to be excellent, and then how do you tap into that on a daily basis.
So, I mean, how did you go from just being a top performing, mortgage salesperson into really going deep? I know that when I listened to the interview you did with Heath, Rene Rodriguez has played a big role in your life, and
yes.
For the Gonzo family, he was on my podcast. Rene was interviewed by me about 2 or 3 episodes ago. Go back and listen to that one, full of gold. But did Rene kind of turn on a light for you, or were you already kind of enlightened and bring it to the next level?
No, he's certainly been an amazing friend and a mentor to me for about 18 years now. And he's certainly been a part of that journey. There was a catalyst, though. There was a moment that my brain shifted, and it was in 2004. Another one of my mentors, Tim Brahim, was talking to me about, so you got to remember, I was in the mortgage industry, 2004. We were all making millions and millions of dollars. I'm Canadian. I'd never made millions of dollars. I'm thinking to myself, this is the greatest country in the world. Oh my God, this is like, who does this, right? How do you just move here and make millions of dollars? This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mentor, Tim, was having a meeting with me about my business, and he was explaining to me that I needed to grow. And I'm like, what do you mean I need to grow? I'm fine. Everything's fine. He says, no, Eric, you don't understand. If you don't grow, your best people on your team are going to leave you because there's no opportunities for them to grow.
Yeah.
And so you're in business, you're either growing or you're dying. There is no static. It doesn't exist in business. And so, brilliant guy, right? I'm trying to be coachable and trying to listen to him, but I was struggling with it because I was making so much money. Why would I change anything? Because to grow, you have to change. And I'm like, I don't want to change. And so he said, well, Eric, why do you want to make money? Why do you want to make millions of dollars? Why is that important to you? I said, and I looked at him, and I'm sitting in front of this brilliant guy who I trust and respect at 100% level, right? Mm-hmm. And he's asking me a question that seems simple. And I remember feeling embarrassed, not knowing how to answer it. He just asked me a simple question. Why do you want to make millions of dollars? And I'm thinking, well, because I do. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why do I want to make millions of dollars? Because there's millions of dollars. And I was like, you know what? Wow, hold on. I don't even know how to answer that question. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel good. And I remember the look on his face was like, wow, Eric, you should be able to answer that question. And it was just a very embarrassing moment for me.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, clearly I need to work on this, right? That's clear. So how do I start the journey of learning how to answer that question well? And that was the moment that started my journey of trying to understand, like, why do I want money? Why do others want money?
Yeah.
Why, like, what drives someone to want to do something to change who they are and what they believe? Like, how does that work? And so the first thing I asked him was, like, what drove you? And he told me this amazing story about his accountant. So he was married to the love of his life. And when they first got married, so you got to marry, first got married, he said to his love of his life, his new bride, he said, you know what, we're going to plan our lives together financially, and we're going to go visit our CPA, and we're going to get all in writing together, and we're going to do this together. She's excited, he's excited. They go to the CPA, they sit in front of the CPA, and the CPA is excited. Wow, I've never had a client want to build their life together with me like this in writing. This is amazing. Yeah. And so there's the 3 of them in a room, they're all excited. And the CPA says, okay, so let's first start with, what's your 10-year goal? Give me a number. He said, I want to have $10 million cash in the bank in 10 years. And the CPA looked at him and laughed and said, no, and said, okay, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
And I need a realistic number.
Yeah.
And this wave of anger hit Tim like a tsunami.
Yeah.
Did you just insult and dismiss me in front of my wife?
Right.
Did those words just come out of your mouth in front of my brand new wife?
Uh-huh.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you're fired.
They're gone.
Second of all, I'm going to come back to you in 9 years and 11 months, and I'm going to show you my bank statement.
Yeah.
Right. And that was this driver for him.
Yeah.
Right. And in 2007, he sold his company and he had partners, but his share, right, his percentage of the shares in 2007, which was 9 years after the meeting with the CPA, his share was $14 million.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh my God, that's such a good story. Wow.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with anything other than just going back to the CPA. He goes, it was an unbelievable driver for
don't
me.
tell me I can't do something, right?
That's correct. Right? And so I was like, wow, okay, so that was a driver for him and it drove him.
Did he go back to the CPA and say,
hell yeah, he did. Hell yeah, he did.
He should have said, you know what, you're right. That wasn't realistic. I have 14 million, not 10 million.
That's great. And so like, that's just a brilliant example of a driver.
Yeah.
And so then you look at other self-made millionaires, right? And you ask them, and when you have a general conversation with them, you get the standard answers, right? Well, I really care about my family and I really want to create a future for it. Right? And you get these stock answers, right? That really what they're doing is just trying to placate you so they can move on because they're busy.
Yeah.
But if you can get them in a corner in a private conversation, and sometimes a beer helps, right? Mm-hmm. You say, no. I want the story that you haven't told to anyone yet. I want the one that when you're struggling going to sleep at night, that thing that's in the back of your head that you've never told anybody.
Yeah.
I want that. And that's when they look over their shoulders, right? And they go, okay. Here's what's really going on. Oh, here we go. Now, whatever this is, that's the truth. That's the deep seated, that's the dark secret that they're not sharing that's really driving their activities. Because to be a self-made millionaire, you have to change. Whatever you're doing today is getting today's results, which isn't what you want, right? And so you have to change your activities. You have to change what you do in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. You have to change what you believe. All of that's hard. It's brutally hard. And you won't do it unless there's a reason for it that's bigger than the excuses.
Yeah. Yeah, right? That's powerful.
And so what I discovered in interviewing hundreds and hundreds of self-made millionaires is the stories all came back into one of 5 buckets. There are only 5 buckets. And so one of my things that I'm really good at is quantifying sequences, right? My brain functions in sequences. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Everything to me is a sequence, which you could ask my girlfriend, it's sometimes hard to be around because literally everything has to be a sequence. It has its advantages. It also has its disadvantages sometimes. But in that ability to quantify a sequence, I was able to realize that all of the answers came back, all the stories, all of the everything came back into one of 5. There are only 5 buckets. And so then I went back to everybody and said, okay, here's what I've discovered, right? There's only 5 buckets. And all of them said, yeah, actually, never really looked at it that way, but you're right. So I should write a book about this. And so, I wrote a book. It got published a year ago called The Why of Money, and meaning, why do you want to earn the money? And if you don't understand that first, you probably won't get there. I mean, you might get lucky, and the driver might override and do things for you. Yeah. But if you can quantify your driver, you can get there on purpose.
So, The Why of Money on Amazon. Everybody, please get this book. I think, you're asking the question that most people don't want to really think about. They want to make money. They just been like, I want to make a lot of money. Why? I don't know. I want to make a lot of money, right? I want to travel. I want to, blah, blah, blah. But to your point, and maybe it takes a beer or two, there's a why behind all that stuff, right?
For sure there is.
Yeah.
And when I hear the answers, I want to travel, I want more security, I want to be able to pay my bills on time. All of those answers, I already know you're not going to get there.
Yeah, you're like, whatever, right? No.
You are so not going to get there because none of that is going to drive change.
Yeah.
You have to change as a human. None of that is going to cause you to want to change. Yeah. Therefore, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard to change, right? People are so,
dude, it's brutal. It's
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah.
I've never met a human that enjoys change. I've never met one. I've never met this person.
Talking to a friend of mine this morning who wants to become a professional speaker, but she's scared because it's going to upset everything that she has going on now. And because right now she has security, and kind of, spending all this money to go to a coaching program to become a speaker, and leaving her job, and she's scared. And I sent her this quote. What I love is that, a boat safe in the harbor, it's not what it's made for. All right. Because it will rot. Right. It's got to get out. It's got to get out of the harbor and take the chances. Right. And I feel like that's what we are too, but it's so hard to do. It's so much easier to just stay in the realm of security, things that, predictable, outcomes, instead of like stepping into that unknown. It's very, very, very scary in the beginning, but you're right. It's the only way that you're going to change and get to that next level of your life.
Yeah, and one of the things I try and show people as well is, so one of the analogies and metaphors I use is playing a musical instrument. So if you've never played a violin before, right, and somebody hands you a violin and says, play the violin, you're going to suck.
Yeah.
It's going to be really bad and embarrassing because you don't know how to do it. So the only way you're going to get good at playing the violin is with practice and a teacher. I would even say without a teacher, you're always going to suck at playing the violin because nobody's showing you how to play it properly.
Right.
So you need a teacher to teach you, and then you need to practice, and then you need to go back to the teacher, teach you more, then go practice, then go back to the teacher, teach you more, go back and practice. Then eventually you become good at it. But if you say to a world-class violinist, wow, you're just a naturally born violinist, they will slap you.
Right.
Naturally born violinist, you are dismissing the 10,000 hours I've practiced. Yeah. What do you mean a naturally born violinist? Hell no. But I would say the same thing about being an entrepreneur. Gary Vee got lucky. What? The guy works 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their luck's got nothing to do with it. And Violet got lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky?
Yeah.
Luck had nothing to do with it. The guy's a work machine.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But why are they work machines? What drove them through that? What was the emotional driver? And I can promise you, when you get any of these people in a room, the answer is never one time did one person tell me the answer was because I wanted to earn more money.
Right.
Never. Not a single person. It was never about the money. So if you're focused on making money, you will never make money. Yeah. Let's first start there.
I love that.
Focus on making money, you will never make money.
I love that. Well, yeah, we were talking before we started recording. Ed Milet went bankrupt. Tony Robbins, was completely broke. Right. I mean, a lot of self-made millionaires. There's a massive reason behind the reason, right, of why they're so successful. Yes. And now you were talking about, and I think you cover this in your book, that you have discovered 5 drivers of why people will succeed. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 5 drivers. You need at least one. You can have more than one. It's totally okay to have more than one, but you need at least one. And so I put in the book, the first chapter, here's all the 5 drivers. At the end of chapter 1, I say, look, if you don't have any of those 5 drivers, if chapter 1 didn't resonate with you at all, get out of sales. Yeah. Don't sell for a living. Go work for Burger King or the post office, or go get a job, whatever. But for God's sakes, don't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So reason number 1 is, I call it lifestyle enhancements. And so some people interpret that as, oh, so you did it because you wanted a Ferrari? It's like, no. Ferrari is I'll call it a symptom, meaning it's what you see, but it's not the cause. They didn't do it because they wanted the Ferrari. What they did is they didn't want to go back to something. Mm. So reason number 1 is an away from. So when Ed Milet says, right, I was broke and I looked at my wife and I said, we're never going to be here again, right? You're now driving away from being broke. If you look at Snoop Dogg, right? Why did he work as hard as he worked? Because he was trying to get away from a bad life experience, right? Get me out of this. I don't want to be here, right? And so I'm just going to outwork everybody. And so if you have a family that moved to the United States from a third world country and they buy, and I don't mean, I'm just using this as an example, but they buy a convenience store like a 7-Eleven or something, and then the whole family just works there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? It's because they're never going back to a third world country.
Yeah.
We're never going to go back. We're going to become millionaires because we're never going back to a bad situation. And so usually reason number one is some sort of away from.
And that's why I read somewhere that immigrants are, I forgot the percentage, but much higher likely to become millionaires than Americans born here.
Yeah, because Americans are spoiled. They don't even know what it means to work hard.
Yeah.
And it's a gross generalization. I mean, there's some Americans that know how to work hard, but you look at the amount of jobs that are available right now, even right now, 2022, how many jobs are available? You talk to any employer, can't find employees right now.
Yeah.
Can't. There's no, like I'm in Los Angeles and there's signs in the windows of restaurants paying $500 signing bonuses to dishwashers.
Wow.
Come wash dishes for us and we'll give you a $500 signing bonus. Can't find dishwashers.
Yeah.
Right. But Americans look at those jobs and say, oh, hell no, I don't. Why would I?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to learn how to work. Oh, well, an immigrant's going to take that job and they're going to learn, they're going to work their way up. They're going to end up owning that restaurant one day.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a mindset of I'm just going to, so what's going on subconsciously for that person is I'm going to outwork you.
Yeah.
That's it. I may not be as talented. I may not know as much. I may not have all the same skills you do. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to work you.
Yeah.
And they crush it because of their work ethic.
Yeah.
But the driver isn't the money. The driver is I'm never going back to something.
Yeah.
There's some sort of away from, right? And so that's reason number one. And so some people go, well, that doesn't resonate with me. I had good parents, good childhood, a good life, I'm not trying to get away from anything. Okay, great. So then that driver is not yours, but it is for some.
Yeah.
Okay. So second driver is what I call emotional gratification. So you're looking for a moment, right? So I was telling the story about Tim Brahim, right? He was looking for a moment with his CPA. I'm going back and I'm going to hand him that bank statement. And so if you can think of a 4-letter word that starts with the letter F, right? and then you add a second word, you, Y-O-U, right? They're looking for that type of moment, or they're looking for a positive moment, like if you've ever seen a football player and they get the first NFL contract and they go up to the press conference and people say, like, you work harder than anybody else, you do things people aren't willing to do, like what drives you, what got you here? And they look in the camera and say, I just want to buy my mom a house.
Yeah.
Right. Had nothing to do with money.
Right.
Nothing. He just loves his mom so much. Wanted to buy a house. He outworked everybody to get his mom a house. That was it. He just literally wants to hand his mom the keys to a house. That's it. Anything past that is gravy.
Eric, I got a question. Maybe this is like a 2B of this. Like, what happens when they reach that goal? Like when your friend said to the CPA, F you, here's my $14 million check. What happens next to make them, in your experience, so that they continue? Do they have a new FU goal from there? Or
no. Well, you can, right? You can, if there's a second one. Typically it collapses and they move to reason number 5, which I'll get to here in just a second.
Okay, great.
So number 2, emotional gratification, that was a big driver for me, right? I was looking for a moment with my dad, right? Growing up, my dad is what I describe as a non-functioning narcissist. And so my whole childhood, he told me and assured me I would never accomplish what he accomplished. Like, it's never going to happen. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're never going to do what I did. Right. It's like, oh, okay. And so he judged that based on 2 very specific metrics. And so 3 years ago, I beat him on both metrics. But it took me 30 years, Dad, right? Like that drove me for 30 years to get that moment. And I
Right.
wanted it so bad that it drove all my activities.
Yeah.
Right. And so reason number 2. But then when I got the moment, it collapsed. And then I moved to reason number 5. Okay. So the reason number 1 is lifestyle enhancement. Reason number 2 is emotional gratification. And some people listen to this, they may say, well, hey, Eric, I don't have reason number 2 either. Right. I'm not looking for that in my life. Okay, great. Let's move to reason number 3. Reason number 3 is opportunities for your children.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you need to be in a certain school district. You need to create some sort of business that they can take over. You want to provide something for them that you didn't have as a kid. There's some sort of, like, if you hear stories, I'll give you a story I read that kind of drove that home for me, right? So husband and wife, they had a 7-year-old child. 7-year-old child had been in gymnastics for a couple of years. The coach called him one day, said, we need you to come down. We need to have a serious conversation. They thought it was a bad conversation. They went down, okay, what's going on? Mm-hmm. The coach said, look, your kid is crazy talented, like light years ahead of everybody else in our school. We can't do anything for your child anymore. Your child, if with the right focus, your child could be in the Olympics. But the Olympics are in Denver. Like, you guys got to move to Denver. And so the husband and wife look at each other, and the husband's like, look, my business is here. I can't move to Denver, but I'm not going to take this opportunity away from our child. So the wife and the child move. The husband stays and works 80 hours a week to pay for everything, because God help the person who gets in his way of creating that opportunity for his child to go to the Olympics. God help you if you get in my way. Yeah. Right. And they just do it. Yeah. And all that was I'm going to create an opportunity for my child, and God help you to get in my way. And so that was the driver that drove it. And so are you trying to do, so it can be one of the third drivers, you're trying to do something massive for your children. Right. Okay. So that's number 3. That's a good one. And some people say, well, I don't have kids. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's go on to number 4. your future children. Are you trying to build something so that when you one day do have kids, right? Okay. So number 4 is caring for your parents. Mm-hmm. Right. So some cultures, right, you'll have multi-generations in the same house. And so they're looking at the parents going, look, my parents are not ready, right? They're gonna get sick. They're gonna get old. I have to do something to care for them. I have to make more money because I'm going to build an additional dwelling unit in the backyard, or I'm going to buy a house next door, or I'm going to have caregivers come in, take care of my parents, or I'm going to, sometimes it's a third world situation where I need to fly my family in from that country and take care of them, or some sort of, I need to care for my parents. My parents are everything to me, and I'm just going to make millions of dollars because I need to care for them. Yeah. And okay, so then that's a driver for them. Yeah. And then the last one is legacy. So legacy is nothing to do with you, right? Something bigger than you. You're trying to build a hospital. You're trying to build an orphanage. You're trying to build a battered women's shelter. You're trying to leave some sort of permanency in the world, right? Yeah. You're trying to leave a fingerprint. College building or something, right? I mattered, and here's my fingerprint to prove that I mattered. Right. My dent in the universe, right? that's correct. And so usually when you collapse like emotional gratification or lifestyle enhancement, if you get it and it collapses, you then move to legacy. Like you look at Ed Milet, he doesn't care about money anymore. What he cares about is changing lives. Yep. He's trying to leave a legacy. He's trying to put a fingerprint on the planet that says, when I die, I will be remembered. Yeah, because I mattered, because I changed lives. Yeah, right. And so it shifts when you achieve certain benchmarks. It then shifts to number 5. Where you get into trouble is when you hit one of those achievements and then it doesn't shift. Then you get yourself into trouble. So one of the famous stories that I think about is Janice Joplin. So her driver was an emotional gratification. Her driver was to be the #1 female artist in the world. Right. And that was her driver. And then the day came where she got it. She was the #1 female artist in the world, but she didn't shift. It collapsed, but there was no shift. Yeah. She became addicted to drugs. Yeah. And then died. Yeah. Because she no longer had a purpose. Yeah. Right. The purpose was there. It collapsed. She didn't point it in any other direction. And so it all fell apart.
You kind of see that with rock stars, celebrities, athletes. When they're when that piece of their life is over, they don't know where to go next, and they sometimes end up in total collapse. Right?
That's correct. They achieve the thing,
yeah,
right? Whatever they wanted to achieve, and then it doesn't shift to number 5,
yeah,
properly,
yeah,
and then the bad things start happening.
Yeah,
sure. That's what happens. But if you shift to number 5, right, and you focus all your energy on legacy, then you renew your purpose in that direction, and now you can focus all that energy for good.
Cool. So you're on legacy. Are we going to see the Mitchell Museum of I don't know.
Yeah, so part of my legacy, and Rene Rodriguez and I talk about this all the time, and he's certainly a lot closer to that legacy piece than I am, and so I'm working on it. But my driver there comes from my grandfather. My grandfather was one of the biggest influences in my life, just this brilliant man. And my family owned a chain of drugstores when I was growing up. I'm from Canada, and it was a small community, but pretty big employer for where we were. We had 900 employees, 27 stores.
Mm-hmm.
And when my grandfather passed away, I remember going to the funeral, and so I'm Jewish, and so it has to happen quickly, right? Jewish funerals are typically in 48 hours, and so everything's fast, rush. And so I remember the limousines pulling up to the house to take all the family to the synagogue for the services. And, so we're all in black suits. We get in the limousine and we pull up to the synagogue. And I remember looking out the window, and there were what seemed like an ocean of people standing outside the synagogue. And what was going through my mind was like, wow, somebody really needs to open the door and let people in. Like, oh my God, who's running this? Like, what's going on? And so we get out of the limousine, the crowd parts, right? We walk up, and I remember walking into the synagogue, the front door, and there was a straight shot back to the seating where everybody sits.
Yeah.
And it was shoulder to shoulder.
Wow.
Standing room only. And I remember standing in the entrance looking, realizing that this place is jammed.
Wow.
Full, and everybody's standing outside because they can't get in.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I knew him as Gramps. That's what everybody called him, right? He was Gramps to me. Yeah. But I didn't realize until that moment how many people he touched.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
What a tribute.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so the benchmark for me, and you can judge it as right or wrong, good or bad, but the benchmark for me is, right, if he was a mentor to me, my grandfather, if he was teaching me, and I want to respect and honor his teachings, then I should have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how do you judge your impact?
Yeah.
Well, how many people are going to come to my funeral? I know Rene Rodriguez, and I hope it's 100 years from now. But at his funeral, whenever that occurs, he's going to have tens of thousands of people at his funeral.
Right. Yeah.
Because he's impacting people at a core level on a mass scale, right? Like, oh my God, what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so then I look at it and say, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to structure my life so I'm having that kind of impact on people that I'm really helping them live a better life? Yeah. With purpose and passion. Right. Yeah. And so my focus has certainly shifted to trying to go down that road for sure.
Eric, that was really good. Yeah. I mean, and God bless you for recognizing all this and trying to make a difference because of it. And, it just warms my heart that many people would show up at your grandfather's funeral. What a tribute to his life. Right. And on that short notice too. Right. So it's a beautiful thing. And, it makes me think of something funny too. I think it was the movie, The Big Chill, one of the movies from the 80s. And they were at this large funeral, and one of the people said, oh my God, I wonder how many people are going to show up at my funeral, and the person that she was with said, well, I'm going to come and, I'll bring a friend, we'll try to pack it, So Eric, before we go, and I usually do try to keep these around a half an hour, but I was going to ask you this question, and I think I got it. I was going to ask you, your driver, and am I correct in saying that your main driver for your success was, going back to your father and saying, "See."
Yeah. So the funny part is, I haven't talked to him in 15 years, and I had to. So I knew the moment was coming. Right. There was a very specific moment. I'm there. It's about to happen. Do I need him to know about it?
Right.
Like, is that part of the driver?
Yeah.
And the answer that came back was no. I need to achieve it, but I don't need him to know. I don't need to rub it in his face. Right?
Knowing that you did it.
Like that makes it that's not who I want to be, right? Like that's not that now that makes me a bad person. I'm being spiteful. Like none of that is good. None of that is purposeful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he doesn't even know. He's not even aware of. And so I don't need him to be aware. I just need to know inside that what he was telling me wasn't true. That's all I needed.
Yeah, no, you did it and taking the high road at the same time. So good for you. You just made me think of something that I saw was such a great story. I guess Jim Carrey was the actor Jim Carrey was very close to his father, and his father passed away before Jim made it big. And Jim wrote out a check for $1 million and put it in his dad's coffin, and that was his driver, that he was going to get paid $1 million to be in a movie someday. And of course he's done that multiple times now. Right. So, your drivers are really ringing true with me. So, I love it. So the book, again, everybody, Gonzo family, The Why of Money, Eric Mitchell. Eric, before we go, tell us, if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, all that great stuff. What are the best ways to do that?
Yeah, you can just go to thewhyofmoney.com, and all my information's right there. Thewhyofmoney.com. I'll just spelled out with no spaces, thewhyofmoney.com. And cool. You can reach me there.
Eric, thank you so much. And what I really want to thank you for is not only sharing your time with me today, but you have had phenomenal success, in business, making, obviously doing very well financially in many other areas of your life. But I want to thank you for just not keeping it all to yourself. I want to thank you for, really taking a lot of time to write this book and share what you've learned so that others can learn and grow and be successful as well. So thank you very much for doing that.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, David.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. I wish you continued massive success, and I look forward to what you're going to be doing for your legacy in the near future.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely. I also want to thank you, Gonzo family, for listening to another episode. Really appreciate you. Every Wednesday morning, we have a new episode. Please share it, like it, all that good stuff. I want to make sure that everybody has a great rest of the week, and make sure to stay awesome.